So without further ado, I'm just going to give a little bit of a warm-up to our meeting. First, thank the sponsors, Hewlett-Packard, the Salvia Foundation, DTP Group, the Arts and Culture Strategy here at the university, Warwick Event Services, who are helping run things, and the Eden Project, and also the University of Exeter, which has backed me in the, I hope not crazy idea to have this meeting. So it's welcome on behalf of a large organising committee from diverse bits of the university and career stages. You'll meet some of those during the next few days, I hope. And the inspiration for the meeting, you're here, I guess it was my crazy idea. We should celebrate the 100th birthday of Jim Lovelock, which was actually last Friday, and his extraordinary contribution to how we see our place in the world. And let's be together part of taking his kind of thinking that he pioneered forwards. So that was Jim earlier this month at home with his beloved wife, Sandy. This is a while back, but this is a meeting held in 1994 in Oxford, one of the first Gaia meeting I attended, and some others in the room will recognize themselves in the photo. And I put it up there because Jim Lovelock himself gave a few of us a special gift of a series of extraordinary meetings in Oxford in the 1990s, and I really wanted us to recreate some of that spirit in the meeting here, some 25 years on from that meeting. Now, I also want you to have lots of fun, because over the years I've been blessed to be able to work with Jim Lovelock, and we've had a lot of fun together, picnic on the beach or swimming in his pool with Peter Cox there. Jim's done, of course, extraordinary work that goes back way before I met him, and we'll hear some of that hopefully when I interview him tomorrow. So this is Lovelock on the left during World War II, when he worked at the National Institute for Medical Research and began an extraordinary career there. Now, by the 1970s, he was a freelance scientist, as you know, an independent, plying his trade from the instruments he'd invented, and had moved by then to Combe Mill, the place which many of us will sort of physically associate him with as a home of Gaia thinking. And he wrote his first book on this extraordinary idea, Gaia, when he published it when he was already 60 years old, which gives me some comfort as I look ahead that there might be some good work to come. The second book, which for me is the best, my personal favourite, he published when he was nearly 70. So, of course, his extraordinary idea, Gaia, is the main motivation, I hope, for all of you to be here, for us to explore together how we might continue to try to understand and take that thinking, that view of the world forwards. And I've been puzzling over this idea and trying to develop it for at least 25 years, and I feel we're still in the process of discovering Gaia, or discovering what Jim, he would say, intuited 50 years ago working at NASA. So even in just the last year, some of us have published a paper where we try to understand and explain how it comes to be that living beings, agents interconnecting in networks starting 3-point-something billion years ago, have extended their influence in space and time so that they're now running, if you like, major parts of the cycling of the elements and influencing the climate of our planet. And there's been some kind of evolution of that extraordinary phenomenon. But as I said, I think we're still in the process of discovering it, and I hope this meeting makes a little contribution to that. And the new thing that's come on the scene in just the blink of the eye of geological time is, of course, our human awareness within Gaia, because as far as we understand it, before we came along, all of this was working quite automatically and unconsciously, including some of the regulation of the climate and the cycling of the elements. But now, for me, and we dubbed this Gaia 2.0, there's something different going on with us, coming collectively to be aware of our actions and how they're changing Gaia, or if you prefer, the Earth system. We're busy monitoring and modeling that as scientists, and some of us, at least, are starting to think we need to consciously change our actions, or indeed are already changing our actions in response to our collective awareness of how we're changing our planet, not necessarily for the better. And that basically brings a new kind of feedback into Gaia, a little bit of human self-awareness, perhaps, in the Earth's self-regulation, as I described it with our opening speaker, Bruno. Now, Bruno hates the disembodied brain, so I apologize for that. This consciousness should really be perhaps a group of scientists or other thinkers just discussing and debating and trying to think through what we should do with this Anthropocene predicament we've given ourselves. And as Bruno would say, we've got to, if indeed there's some possibility of a new kind of human self-awareness in the self-regulation of the Earth, we've got to think, who are those humans playing that role? What kind of consciousness could be expected of them? And in particular, what things might we learn from the original Gaia if we wanted to create a better, sustainable, flourishing future for some 9 billion of us who will be on the planet in the middle of this century? So what would a flourishing Gaia 2.0 look like with a little human self-awareness in the Earth's self-regulation? Well, I hope we'll be discussing and debating that here for a couple of days. That idea and your host institution for the meeting came out of forming this Global Systems Institute, the host institute for the meeting. So just a word on that. This has come out of my 25-year sort of long frustration with endlessly diagnosing the problems of the Anthropocene and the Earth system in the Anthropocene. I became convinced that we need to create a place and a space where we can also use our deep understanding of these global systems to work towards solutions, I hope, or to a better future. So in simple terms, for those of you who aren't Exeter folk, we're in the process of bringing you together today, but also co-locating a whole bunch of new and existing faculty here at the university. So there'll eventually be 40 new faculty, 40 existing faculty, many researchers together in a new building. The whole emphasis of this is on transcending conventional disciplines. Let's organise around the problems we need to solve, irrespective of discipline. And that's part of the spirit of this meeting as well. We'd like to be a thought-leading place with you, and I hope this meeting is the beginning of that, where we look beyond kind of single environmental issues and try to take a Lovelockian, a systems understanding of all the coupled global changes we're creating in Gaia and the Earth system. And I think we need to get action-oriented, so we need to use that understanding to help identify some positive steps we can take to build a better future. So we're, of course, an educational institution, and we want to educate a new generation of leaders and agents of change. And, of course, we're not going to do this alone. So I'm glad you're here. We want to network with partners who want to be part of a better future. So just to briefly introduce the journey I hope we're going to go on in this meeting. Well, today we're going to look back a little at the history of Gaia, the whole history of the planet, but also the history of this kind of thinking. And then we're going to have a buzzy panel on what we can learn from Gaia towards Gaia 2. And then tomorrow, a bumper day, we'll start with reassessing where Gaia is in the Anthropocene. Then we'll have an interview with the man himself. Then move into how new science is opening up our sensing of this world and of other worlds. And then have a creative breakout session before the inevitable party, the conference dinner. And then on the final morning, we'll switch into the mode of let's talk about how we can tip some transformative change for the better and how we can create, hopefully, a better Gaia 2.0.